Welcome to Threads of Truth, the podcast where real-life mysteries meet internet speculation. Today, we revisit a case captured on camera that has haunted investigators and armed care detectives for years. A young tourist bolts from an airport, disappears into the woods, and is never seen again. What happened to Lars Mittank? We're talking about chilling CCTV footage, instantly recognizable if you've spent any time looking into online mysteries. He shows a seemingly ordinary young man, a 28-year-old German named Lars Mittank, visibly panicked, running frantically from Varna Airport in Bulgaria. The visual is just so stark. He leaves everything behind: his bag, his passport, his ticket. Abandoning his entire life in this sudden, terrifying sprint. The sheer desperation, the terror of his flight. It's palpable, isn't it? Even through that grainy security feed. Such a stark contrast to the, carefree holiday he was supposed to be on. And what exactly led up to that moment is this really perplexing timeline. It includes a seemingly minor head injury from a few days earlier. Then these increasingly strange and paranoid texts he sent to his mother, and this agitated, almost frantic behavior caught on hotel security footage. It's just this rapid, bewildering descent from a fun vacation to vanishing. Okay, let's unpack this. Was Lars suffering some kind of sudden, acute mental health crisis, maybe triggered by the injury or medication? Or was he actually a target of foul play, caught up in something way more sinister than a typical tourist argument? Or was there something else entirely, something more covert happening that we just can't see, that drove him to such a desperate public act? We're going to take a deep dive into all of it for you, try and peel back some of those layers.
It really is a case that's captivated and frustrated so many people, hasn't it? Investigators, amateur sleuths online. Because we seem to have so many pieces, yet that final picture, it just remains stubbornly incomplete. What's truly fascinating, I think, is how those last definitive moments of Lars's presence are captured so clearly on camera. But instead of giving us answers, they deepen the enigma. We see exactly what he did, moment by moment, but the why he did it, and crucially, where he went afterwards, those questions are still completely out of reach. It's almost like the clarity of the footage itself obscures the truth. It becomes this sort of digital Rorschach test where everyone projects their own ideas onto it about mental health, about crime, about the unknown.
And that's the core paradox, right? Mm-hmm. The clearer the image, the more elusive the answer seems to get. So, to really get a handle on this mystery, we need to establish who Lars Mittank was before all this happened.
Absolutely. Lars Mittank was, by all accounts, just a typical 28-year-old German guy. Friends, family, they consistently describe him as normal, healthy, happy. And crucially, and this is something his family has stressed over and over, there was absolutely no known history of mental illness. None at all. Which, of course, makes what happened later even more perplexing and heartbreaking for them.
Right. He was just on holiday, wasn't he? With 5 friends, out at the Golden Sands Resort near Varna in Bulgaria. A popular spot, lots of nightlife, beaches.
Exactly, a standard summer getaway. They arrived in Varna towards the end of June 2014, just looking for a fun, relaxing break. But then on July 6th, just a few days into the trip, this seemingly minor incident happens. But it turns out to be a real pivotal moment. Lars was a big football fan, Werder Bremen supporter, and he apparently got into a heated argument at a bar, reportedly with fans of a rival team, Bayern Munich. You know how passionate those rivalries can be.
Sure, happens all the time.
Right. It was late at night, and during this altercation, some accounts suggest it got physical. Lars got separated from his friends. The next morning, when he met up with them again, he told them this really disturbing story. He claimed he'd been beaten up by 4 men. And he believed these men were hired by the rival football fans from the bar argument.
Hired? That seems quite extreme for a bar argument over football.
It does, doesn't it? But that was his account. And he said this alleged attack left him with a head injury and, significantly, a ruptured eardrum. And the pain from that ear injury, it quickly became a critical factor. It directly influenced the decisions he made next and ultimately set him on this path towards disappearing. The immediate impact was, understandably, a lot of discomfort and maybe a growing sense of unease.
Okay, so he's got this painful injury, a ruptured eardrum. His friends are about to fly home. What was the medical situation then? What did the doctor say?
Well, the ear was definitely causing him significant pain. So on July 7th, the exact day his friends were due to fly out, Lars went to see a local doctor. The diagnosis confirmed it, ruptured eardrum. The doctor prescribed an antibiotic. It's often cited as cefprozil, though sometimes you see cefuroxime mentioned.
Okay, antibiotic.
Yeah, the key thing is the type of drug. because in extremely rare cases, some antibiotics can have these psychiatric side effects.
Right. I think I've heard about that, like paranoia or something.
Exactly. Hallucinations, anxiety, paranoia. It's very rare, but it happens. And crucially, the doctor advised Lars not to fly because the pressure changes at altitude could seriously damage his ear further, cause immense pain. So suddenly, Lars is in this incredibly difficult spot. His friends have flights booked. They have to go home as planned. So they leave him behind in Varna alone to recover.
That must have been tough, injured, alone in a foreign country.
Absolutely. So with his plans totally disrupted, he needed somewhere to stay. He checked into a cheaper hotel near the airport, figuring he'd just stay a few extra days until he was okay to fly. And this sudden isolation, combined with the injury, the alleged assault he'd reported, and starting this new medication, it really marks the beginning of the truly alarming behavior that followed. It was like a perfect storm brewing.
And it's during this period when he's alone in that hotel that things really start to escalate, right? I know there's the hotel CCTV, but let's start with his mother. What did she experience?
Right. The first really alarming sign, the one that deeply worried his mother, Sandra, was a phone call Lars made to her. It was late on July 7th, or maybe very early morning, July 8th. And it wasn't just a check-in call. It was described as this panicked, whispered plea. You could apparently hear the fear in his voice. He told her chillingly that people are trying to kill him, and he urged her to cancel his credit cards immediately, almost like he thought they were being tracked or could be used against him.
Wow, that must have been terrifying for her to hear.
Absolutely terrifying. I mean, imagine getting that call from your son who just days before was seemingly fine, just on holiday. It immediately signals the severe, alarming shift, extreme fear, possibly profound delusion, or, maybe a genuine perception of terrifying threat. Her shock and worry must have been immense.
And the hotel CCTV footage from around that time, it's just vital, isn't it? It gives us this sort of unfiltered window into how agitated and fearful he'd become.
Yeah.
What exactly does it show?
Yeah, it's fascinating and deeply unsettling how much those cameras captured. The footage shows Lars pacing the hotel hallways erratically, almost feverishly. He's constantly looking out windows like he's scanning for someone or something outside. He just couldn't seem to settle. And then there's this moment where he's seen hiding inside an elevator for quite a long time, just hiding, as if he thought he was being followed right there in the hotel.
Hiding in an elevator.
Yeah. And he was also seen talking to himself, which, is often a sign of significant psychological distress, maybe a detachment from reality. There's even a report that he left the hotel entirely for about an hour around 1 a.m., then came back. We have no idea where he went or what happened during that hour.
Another gap, another question mark.
Exactly. So all these behaviors together, the pacing, the scanning, the hiding, talking to himself, they paint this stark picture of someone in extreme mental turmoil, possibly experiencing profound delusions or maybe even a full-blown psychotic episode. The intensity is just undeniable.
So his mother is obviously incredibly worried by this point. She buys him a new ticket home for July 8th. He gets a taxi to Varna Airport that morning, even texts her to say he's arrived. It seems like, okay, maybe he's going to get home safe now. But then what happens inside the airport?
Right. This is where we get to the absolute crux of it, the moments just before he vanishes, all caught on the airport security cameras. His last known interaction is with the airport doctor, Dr. Kosta Kostov. He went there presumably for a final check, maybe clearance to fly with the ear injury. Dr. Kostov later described Lars's behavior during that consultation as nervous and erratic.
So still agitated then.
Very much so. Dr.
Yeah.
Kostov said he was visibly anxious, shaking, seemed preoccupied, couldn't really focus, clearly not himself. And then comes the trigger, the critical turning point. It seems so mundane. A construction worker, apparently unconnected to Lars, just enters the doctor's office, maybe to ask a question, grab something, who knows.
Just a random guy walks in.
Seemingly random, but the simple act triggers an immediate explosive reaction from Lars. He tenses up instantly, becomes visibly terrified. His whole body language shifts from agitated to just sheer panic. And then he shouts, apparently with an intensity that really shocked the doctor, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here."
I don't want to die here.
Wow. It's just this moment of raw, primal terror, seemingly completely unprovoked by the construction worker himself. If you step back, this interaction is pivotal. It's the last moment we see him sort of contained before everything just breaks.
So this outburst, this explosion of fear, What does he do immediately after that? This is a moment captured on camera that everyone knows.
He bolts immediately without any hesitation. He runs out of the doctor's office and he leaves everything. His luggage, backpack, passport, ID, everything essential for travel just abandoned.
Just drops everything and runs.
Exactly. Then comes that infamous CCTV footage. You see him sprinting through the airport terminal, just a blur of panic. He runs across the parking lot outside. And then, in this really desperate, almost unbelievable move, he climbs this tall fence, maybe 8 feet high, topped with barbed wire, according to some reports. Climbs it, gets over, and disappears into a nearby field bordering some woods.
Scales a fence and runs into a field.
It's just this chaotic, desperate flight. Fleeing for his life, it seems, from something unseen or perhaps something imagined. Every fiber of his being is just screaming, escape!
And that's it. That's the last anyone ever saw of him.
That's precisely where the trail goes completely cold, never seen again after that moment. Despite massive searches, Bulgarian authorities, volunteers, his family have pursued every lead imaginable. Absolutely no trace of Lars Mittank has ever been found. No body, no belongings other than what he left at the airport, no further confirmed sightings, nothing. It's like he just vanished into thin air. Right there, in a public place, captured on camera. That's what makes it so uniquely disturbing.
And because it was so public, so baffling, the internet just exploded, didn't it? Countless theories trying to figure out what happened. I suppose the most common one, the one you hear most often, is the medical or drug-induced psychosis theory.
Yeah, that one consistently comes up first. It tries to connect the dots, you know? The head injury, the antibiotic, the sudden extreme paranoia. It posits that Lars suffered an acute psychotic episode. One angle focuses heavily on that antibiotic, cefprozil or cefuroxime. While it's incredibly rare, certain antibiotics can cross the blood-brain barrier in susceptible individuals and mess with neurotransmitters.
Leading to
things like hallucinations, severe anxiety, intense paranoia, even dissociation. It's a known, though very rare, side effect. And it would explain why Lars's fear felt so utterly real to him, even if the threat was internal.
So the theory is he might have been one of those unlucky few who had this extreme reaction. And his paranoia was basically the drug talking.
That's the idea, that his terror was entirely a product of this rare, severe reaction to the medication. All in his head, essentially. Then there's the head trauma angle, which is also part of this broader medical theory. The injury from that alleged bar fight. Maybe it wasn't just a ruptured eardrum.
Could have been more serious, like a concussion.
Exactly. A concussion or maybe even a slow brain bleed like a subdural hematoma. Those don't always show obvious symptoms immediately, but they can cause delayed psychiatric changes affecting perception, emotion, behavior. A brain injury could absolutely trigger a psychotic break, or at least make someone much more vulnerable to stress, perhaps exacerbating something underlying. The brain's delicate, you know. Even seemingly minor trauma can have big effects.
So the injury itself could have been the trigger.
It's a definite possibility. Or there's the idea of just a general psychological break. Maybe the combination of everything, the injury, the pain, being alone, the foreign country, the alleged assault, the stress just overwhelmed him. Perhaps it triggered an underlying condition, something undiagnosed like schizophrenia, which often first appears in young adulthood.
But didn't his family say he had no history of anything like that?
They did, very strongly and consistently. No history of mental illness whatsoever. And that's the big counterpoint. It makes it really hard for them and many others to accept that explanation. The suddenness, the severity, it didn't fit the Lars they knew.
Okay, so that's the medical side. But what if his fear wasn't imagined? What if he really was in danger? That brings us to the real danger theory, right? The idea that criminals were actually after him.
Exactly. And this theory is compelling because it offers a clear external reason for his extreme panic. It makes logical sense in a terrifying way. It starts with believing Lars's story about the beating was completely true. And crucially, that the attackers weren't just random thugs, but maybe part of a more organized criminal element. Perhaps local organized crime, which, can unfortunately be a factor in some tourist areas.
So the bar fight wasn't just a fight, it was something more.
Potentially, something that put him on the radar of dangerous people. And in this theory, that construction worker in the airport doctor's office, he wasn't random at all.
He was part of it. A lookout, maybe.
That's the interpretation. A lookout, or maybe even someone sent to intercept Lars. The idea is that Lars recognized him, maybe from the attack, maybe he'd seen him watching him before. And that sudden recognition, right when he thought he was safe and about to go home, that's what triggered the absolute panic. The realization that he was still being pursued, maybe even cornered.
And why would they be pursuing him?
Well, the motive could be anything, really. Maybe trying to extort money after the fight. Maybe they wanted to kidnap him for some reason. Or maybe, more darkly, silence him if he'd seen something he shouldn't have. Under this theory, his panicked flight makes perfect sense. It's not delusion, it's a rational escape from a real immediate threat. And it explains leaving everything behind your life is more important than your passport when you think you're about to be killed.
It does provide a very neat, though chilling, explanation for his actions.
It does. It ties things together logically.
Then you get into the more, let's say, speculative theories.
Well,
The ones that pop up on forums, often filling the information vacuum. Like the idea he was involved in drug smuggling.
yes, the drug mule theory. It's definitely out there, a fringe theory you see on Reddit threads and places like that. But it's important to stress, there is absolutely zero evidence to support it. None whatsoever.
Okay, but what's the gist of it?
The idea is that Lars was involved, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly, as a drug mule, perhaps carrying drugs internally or hidden somewhere. In this scenario, the ruptured eardrum, the bar fight story, it's all a cover. Maybe to explain injuries or strange behavior or why he was still in Bulgaria.
And the people trying to kill him.
According to this theory, those would be the drug dealers. Maybe they thought he'd lost the drugs or was trying to rip them off, so they were hunting him down. And the construction worker at the airport, that becomes a signal, a sign that he's busted or the deal is off, triggering his panicked escape. It tries to explain the sudden flight and abandoning his stuff.
But again, just speculation.
Pure speculation. There's nothing in his background, his communications, his travel history, nothing to suggest any involvement in anything like that. It really seems like a theory born purely from the lack of answers rather than any actual clues.
Right. And what about the idea he just disappeared voluntarily, chose to vanish?
That's another one that often comes up in missing persons cases, though it's less popular here, mainly because of how genuinely panicked he looks in that video. It just doesn't look like an act.
But the theory is he planned it.
The idea would be that Lars, for some completely unknown reason, maybe massive debt, a secret life, just an overwhelming desire to start over, saw the chaos at the airport as a golden opportunity to disappear off the grid. So his actions, the panic, it would all be part of a calculated, if desperate, plan to vanish, using the drama as a smokescreen.
Why is that generally dismissed, though?
Mostly because his life seemed so normal beforehand. No obvious signs of wanting to escape. And crucially, that sheer raw panic in the video. The way he sprints, climbs that fence, it feels utterly authentic, like pure fight or flight. Not like someone calmly executing a plan. It seems too uncontrolled, too desperate to be staged.
Yeah, that footage is just magnetic, isn't it? Regardless of the theory, its power is undeniable. It's become the defining image of the whole case.
Absolutely. The fact that it's public, that it's viral, is why Lars Mittank's disappearance is so famous, so enduring. It gives you this unique real-time window into someone vanishing. People watch it again and again, analyzing every pixel, trying to spot something. But, like we said, the ambiguity is key. It fuels the mystery instead of solving it. You see terror, I might see delusion, someone else sees calculation. It lets everyone project their own interpretation onto it. It's that digital Rorschach test effect again.
And circling back to the medical side, that enigma remains deeply frustrating. The psychosis theory seems plausible on the surface, but it hits that wall with the family's insistence about his history, doesn't it?
It really does. No prior history. No warning signs. And without his body, you can't prove a brain bleed or an overdose or confirm any specific physiological trigger. It's all inference. It leaves you with that haunting question. Did the stress and the injury somehow unlock a hidden, latent condition, something that only emerged under that extreme pressure? Or was it just a freak one-off reaction? We just don't have the medical proof either way.
And on the flip side, the real danger theory. It's compelling because it explains the fear so perfectly. If someone's after you, you run. But what's the big stumbling block with the evidence we actually have?
The stumbling block is simply that we don't see anyone chasing him in that final footage. His fear looks utterly real, yes. But when he runs from the doctor's office, across the tarmac, over the fence, There's no one visibly right behind him in hot pursuit.
So no confirmation of an immediate visible threat right then.
Not directly in those frames, no. Now, that doesn't completely disprove the theory. The threat could have been perceived. Maybe they were out of shot, maybe waiting in a car, planning to intercept him after he left the terminal. We don't know. But it means the real danger isn't visually confirmed in those last moments. Was it real, or was it constructed in his mind? Maybe due to his condition. Without more evidence, like a witness or a confession, the ambiguity just hangs there.
And maybe the most unsettling part of all. Why has no body ever been found? You said Varna isn't exactly the middle of nowhere. How does someone just vanish like that?
It's a huge, deeply disturbing question, and it definitely fuels the more sinister theories. Varna has woods, yes, some undeveloped land near the airport, but it's not a vast, remote wilderness where someone could easily stay lost forever. The lack of a body points to a few difficult possibilities. Did he run off, get injured, succumb to the elements, or a medical issue and somehow get completely concealed? Maybe by dense undergrowth, maybe unusually quickly. Or did someone find him?
Find him? What, help him disappear? Or worse?
Or worse. That's the chilling thought. Was he found by someone after the camera stopped and either helped to stay hidden or harmed in a way that ensured no trace was ever left? The fact that nothing, absolutely nothing has been found suggests something very efficient happened, whether by accident or design. It really challenges how we think someone can just cease to exist.
And you have to remember the added difficulties of international investigations, too. Different police protocols, language barriers, limited resources for cross-border searches. It all adds layers of complexity and potential gaps. Critical early stages can be slowed down just by bureaucracy.
Through all this uncertainty, though, one constant has been Lars's mother, Sandra Mittank. Her dedication is incredible. It really is. Sandra Mittank's fight to find her son is just extraordinary. She's been this tireless advocate running the Find a Lars Mittank website, constantly sharing information, doing media appeals across Europe for years. Her refusal to give up hope, her persistence, it's kept his story alive, kept people looking, kept the pressure on. It ensures Lars isn't just forgotten, despite the lack of answers. Her dedication is truly the heart of the ongoing search. In this case, it really has become a symbol of the internet's fascination with these real-time vanishings, hasn't it? That footage creates this intense connection, this feeling of witnessing something profound and mysterious unfold. It sparks endless online sleuthing, theory crafting on Reddit, YouTube. There's this huge collective investment in trying to solve it. Everyone watching feels like they have a stake in finding the answer. It's a very modern kind of mystery phenomenon.
So after all this time, what could realistically break the case open? What could finally give his family some answers?
Realistically, it would probably take something quite significant and unexpected now. Maybe a confession from someone involved who can't live with it anymore. Or the discovery of his remains, sadly, which would at least provide some forensic clues about what happened physically. Or perhaps a new, credible witness finally comes forward, someone who actually saw him after he ran into that field and knows what happened next. Without one of those breakthroughs, Lars Mittank's disappearance is likely to remain one of the internet's most haunting and enduring cold cases.
The disappearance of Lars Mittank remains one of the most puzzling cases of the last decade. A chilling reminder of how quickly a life can take an unforeseen and terrifying turn, leaving behind only questions in a haunting video. We thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the layers of mystery surrounding Lars's final moments. We acknowledge the ongoing efforts of Lars's family to find answers, and we truly hope one day they get the clarity and closure they so desperately deserve. If you have your own theories or insights on the Lars Mittank case, we encourage you to share them online using #TheDeepDiveMystery. We're always eager to hear what stands out to you. Next time on The Deep Dive, we step back to the 1930s for one of the strangest hotel mysteries in American history. Who was Roland T. Owen, and why did he check in under a fake name, vanish from the inside of a locked room, and leave behind a trail of unanswered calls, cryptic notes, and death?